Hey everyone, it's Coolkid here, and it's time for the Lunarians to set ablaze. So yeah, it's been a while since I did a discussion, or heck, even a theory video in a while, but the latest chapter, chapter 1035, the last chapter of the year, just, made me interested in Lunarians, and I kind of wanted to, talk about it and do a discussion video about it. So yeah, and I should also probably say that because there's only real one Lunarian we've seen in the story that's king, so this will kind of, I guess, be a not just a Lunarian discussion video, but a little bit of a king discussion video. But hey, at least I knocked down with 2 stones. Anything else I gotta say? Actually, when this video comes out, I'm recording this ahead because I'll be on vacation. So yeah, Christmas vacation, guys. I'll be away. So hope your Christmas vacation is fun and all. So yeah, I guess that's really it. Let's get into the discussion. So I guess with the discussion, I have to, look at all the facts that we got first before we get into real discussing about anything. So yeah, the first thing that we learn about, the Lunarian race and, King's race in whole is that Big Mom does first mention that, when she and Kaido finally, join up with that alliance together, and she does mention something about King, like, oh yeah, you're one of the 3 races that's, not in Whole Cake Island. And I believe we know that's Lunarians, then there's Giants, we know that one for a fact, and I don't think we know the third one, but from guessing, I probably would say it's like, the sky races in general, and I'll get to that when, we go to later information where I get the discussing. Then in chapter 1023, we do get a scene with Marco where he's thinking back to a moment with Whitebeard and a discussion he and Whitebeard had. So let's see. What do you mean on top of the red line is Mary Joie? And Whitebeard's like, I'm talking about long before that. From what I hear, there used to be a land of gods. Ooh, okay. That's definitely very interesting, and it falls into a scene where Marco's telling Izo, like, hey Izo, do you believe in God? So that's funny. And then the next thing we can't get, it's not for a while until chapter 1033, which was like only 2 chapters ago. But yeah, we got this whole moment with Queen where he's like, oh, trust me, Pirate Hunter Zoro, there's no way he can beat King, because that guy is a remnant of the extinct Lunarians, a monster both capable of surviving in any environment. In the distant past, his people were known as gods. Then why would they have died out? You want to know? Go ask a history book. And that's all we get from there. But then, the big stuff we find out is in chapter 1035, the latest chapter. Unless if you're watching this ahead of time, like, I don't know, next year or something. It would be the latest chapter, but whatever. The next big thing that we learn about Lunarians from this chapter, from what we get, is one, their very distinct ability, which, throughout the fight, Zoro was trying to figure out. And he figured out that, the flame on the back of King that, we've seen just hovering in midair for some reason. Yeah, it has 2 abilities where basically, he has very high defense when the flame is up and, can do fire-based abilities and whatnot. But then when it goes down, he gets like super speed and super fast, but his basic defensive ability just gets completely dropped. So, while I was reading that chapter, I do have to admit that the whole thing was kind of confusing me. Like, oh yeah, why do Lunarians have fire-based abilities? No other race really has that. But then you gotta kind of think about, like, oh yeah, you got Fishman Karate, and then you got Electro for the Ming. So it's not like, any other, I guess, One Piece species have some kind of, special attack exclusive to their race. So that's very interesting. And also, I guess the look of the Lunarians with the white hair, which King does show off, and honestly, like, I guess looking at King in this chapter, he kind of reminds me of like Wiper. And honestly, if I didn't watch Sawyer's video about it, I probably wouldn't come up with that conclusion, because he looks straight up so much like a Wiper in this chapter. But I guess the real last kind of piece of information that we also get from this chapter is the flashback with King. So him first meeting up with Kaido, and we do know that from what Kaido said, the endurance test. So I'm guessing that Lunarians have very high, I guess, stamina, and they both eventually escape, which they were experiment on was it Punk Hazard? Yeah, from the looks of it, Punk Hazard and later to join, and also the fact that the government has what did those random ass Beast Pirates say? Yeah, black wings, white hair, brown skin. The reward for tipping off the government was 100 million berries. So yeah, I mean, just to find out about a Lunarian, or maybe it could be just the Lunarian that escaped, because it is definitely, I think from what like Oda's trying to hint at is King, he's the last of like the last of the Lunarians, and I mean I guess that would make sense, and it really asks I guess a lot of questions on everything else surrounding the Lunarians. But yeah, I guess that's really it for all the information we have right now. So theorizing time. That comment I just said earlier, how I guess the Lunarians, or I guess King in general, kind of looks like Wiper, especially with the face tattoo he got around his left eye, or is it his right? It doesn't matter. But yeah, he got it around one of his eyes, and it kind of reminds me of like Wiper's face tattoo he's got. It's not the same, I know that for a fact, but it looks pretty similar, probably just because, Viper's the only character I can think off the top of my head with that same one. And, like, he looks very much like Viper, especially if you look at the flashback. He pretty much looks just like Viper. It is so crazy to think. And I genuinely do think that the Lunarians do, in fact, have some kind of connection to the Sky Races. Because, like, okay, Lunarians, Loon, Moon, so there's obviously a connection there. And we do know for a fact through the Enel cover page that the Sky Races actually indeed came from the moon. So it would not be a stretch for the Lunarians to also have come up from the moon. And, and also the fact that they used to live on the Red Line. And while I don't remember off the top of my head, like, how tall the Red Line is, if it's, tall enough for, like, the White Sea or the White Sea to be formed around, I don't know. I mean, because I guess that they might have. I even to this day, I still ask the question of, do like, the world government know anything about, like, Sky Races or anything? Because I do wonder about that. But, if the Red Line is, tall or just about close enough to, the White Sea, it's very possible that, in the distant past that, the Lunarians, when they came from the moon down to Earth, or whatever One Piece world is called, they stayed on one island. That one island drifted towards the Red Line, and, they stayed about there. I guess that would make sense. And then, if they were in the distant past, like I don't know if they were all throughout the red line, or actually, wait a minute. It's definitely very possible when you think about it. If they were where Merijawa is at, it's very possible that that's where the Lunarians used to live and existed at one point. And obviously, because when the world government was formed, they specifically chose the top of the red line to put Merijawa in there. I guess all of the world nobles to be at, because it represents the highest power, the one place that literally no one can penetrate. You have to have like some kind of special pulley and carry system, or just have like a snail that can climb on top of the red line or whatever, or just be Fisher Tiger or whatever. But yeah, it's almost literally impossible to penetrate. But then the world government got they got the problem of the Lunarians, okay? These races that are known to be as gods. So I don't know if, like legitimately, like people in the One Piece world, long time ago during the Void Century or whatever, actually did, pray to like, I don't know, like the Lunarians as actual gods. Hell, even, it's definitely even possible that Sun Nika could be a god. And there goes there with Sun Nika, because I do remember making the theory of that Sun Nika, being a Skypean. I did, or at least some kind of sky race. But if my theory about I guess the Lunarians being be also coming from the moon, and they would probably be also a sky race. I guess that would make sense. And I'm trying to think of anything else. And I mean, especially when you get their weakness, as freaking Zoro said himself earlier in the chapter. What was it? Yeah, when the flame goes out, he moves faster, but his defensive abilities just completely drop in response. So that would have to mean, or at least to me, that probably there was some kind of indecisive battle, and maybe like the world government knew about their weakness, so they did something where the Lunarians would drop their fire and try to speed blitz them. But that was the moment when the world government basically killed almost all of them. And if we believe that King is literally the last of the Lunarians, it begs to kind of ask the question of, well, how did, I guess, I guess with King got there, or his name Albert or Amber, I don't know, it's weird with L's and R's. Yeah, but I'll just call it by the official Albert. That's still a weird name for King, but hey, to be fair, Kaido was like, yo, man, no, not someone as strong as you. You should be called, like, King. Actually, this beg the question, is even Queen's own name? Okay, that's food for thought. But yeah, I guess I'm presuming, there was, like, at least with King, him being the last one, and if the Lunarians, if from what I'm guessing they were wiped out, like, probably Void Century. That the Void Century is like, what, almost 800, 900 years ago? God, that's such a long time. I don't remember exactly when the Void Century happens, but I think it happens 800 years ago. And, 800 years ago to roughly King's, like, actually, wait a minute, give me a minute. How old is King again? Oh, God, I should have probably had that up on my screen so I can, just know this stuff better. Okay. So, according to the One Piece Wiki, King is 47 years old. So, even between 47 and about 800 years ago, that's like a long span of time. So, if, the Lunarians did get wiped out during, like the end of the Void Century. I mean, it's definitely possible that the Lunarians could have, I don't know, existed, elsewhere on the Red Line, and it wasn't like, I don't know, 100 years ago that the world government decided to wipe them off. But just from the, comment that we get all the way from chapter 230 with the, I guess, when Marco's thinking back on it, he's like, oh yeah, I used to hear there used to be a land of gods up there. Wait a minute. Land of gods. God Valley. Wait a minute. It's now thinking about it more. What if not just the reason because they didn't just went for like the Mary Chouat on top of the Red Line just because it's the highest point possible, and all these world nobles wanted to present their power of, yes, the world government, it's all powerful. We are now like gods because essentially the freaking celestial dragons are kind of has to be treated like one, but maybe because the Lunarians were known as God back in the day, so they didn't just want to take what was the Lunarians on top of the Red Line out, but where they else were at, and that was God Valley. I mean, that definitely is possible. Maybe that's why it was called God Valley in the first place. Huh. Very, very, very interesting. Just my theory crafting. But I guess back to King, and either way, if it happened 100 years ago or 800 years ago, there probably would be like just one small group of family of like Lunarians out there, and they're hiding from the world government until one day, probably like what King's like 47 years ago, so like just for safety's sake, like 40 years ago they found like a small group of Lunarians. The world government did. They killed all of them except for probably except for King or Albert, because he was, well, probably the youngest, and it would be easier to keep on a leash. And then they transferred Albert to Punk Hazard and start doing experiments on the Lunarians. And I mean, it makes sense, especially with the whole point when thinking about when Kaido's was experimented by the world government trying to extract his fruit and his power, which probably they also want to do the same thing, just harness the power of the Lunarians, because even though the world government wiped them all out at one point, that they are still very powerful, that they can take almost any damage. They have very much endurance, and even when the fire comes out, they just speed blitz these fools. So yeah, I guess I can. That's about all I can come up with. The theory crafty of the past of the Lunarians and how they were wiped out. So I guess going back to, the bigger whole thing with the Lunarians and their combat abilities. They do have like a fire ability, and it is kind of weird looking at it. Like okay. So at least from the chapter what we are shown, let me pull out freaking sword just like for show an example. So when King was just wiping out those random beast pirates, he says sword aflame, and also his back was a flame, and he sent the dragon. Was it the Imperial Winged Flame, which is like a dragon, which actually thinking about it now, that's probably why he shoots out dragons, probably so we can get Zoro for that Ryuma reference, him cutting down a dragon. So yeah, I guess that makes sense. But then when we go like towards the end of the chapter, when he does what was it? Extra large Imperial Flame wings, which with this attack, I'm guessing what makes it different, because probably with King and all the Lunarians. They can probably throw all their other fire moves willy-nilly, but if they want to, use, in this case, his ultimate fiery attack, he has to, I guess, put the flames in his back also to that flame, so it does make him susceptible to damage, which I'll just say this, I did miss saying in my chapter review, I completely missed the fact that, one, King's sword gets snapped in half here, and one of his wings gets cut off. Like, what? Freaking Zoro did that crazy. But, yeah, so there's with that. So I guess that would make sense. I mean, okay, also another thing. I mean, that really makes you question, like, what would be, the equivalent of, like, a really powerful fire move, because in chapter, was it, like, 133? Where was that moment? Yeah, towards the beginning, when 1033, he freaking, like, blew himself up, and it was just fine. It was, like, a really powerful fire attack, so I don't know, that would be considered, like, too much of a, use of fire. So, there's with that. But, I mean, it's definitely a cool, set of abilities, and actually, it does actually beg the question, like, because if they do come from the moon, and if they are also like a variation of the sky races, why do these Lunarians get fire abilities, but freaking damn, like the Skypeans and the Brickens and I don't remember all the sky races, but yeah, they don't get any real, like, extra abilities. Like, I don't even think their wings help them fly out or anything like that. So I really don't know, like, what's up with that. But yeah, I guess that's really it for the discussion. I mean, I've talked about how they with King kind of looking like Wiper, and oh my god, I can't believe I missed that. They kind of like King, honestly, if his hair was straight, I would believe you in saying that, King kind of looks like Sephiroth, but, like, darker skinned, yeah. So, yeah, that's at least from my thinking about it. I guess I'll also say this, I haven't watched Game of Thrones, but while I was on the Runaway Warlords, they said they reminded them of God, I forgot the name, but, like, I think it's supposed to be, like, some kind of special, people where they have, like, white flowing hair. I don't know. I haven't seen Game of Thrones. Just throwing that out. But he does kind of look like the Witcher guy, maybe, with the white hair. But that's right, because the white hair. But yeah, I guess that's really it. I could try and make theories or anything, but I am kind of curious. Like, the Lunarians of the past, are they more like King, or are they completely different? Just curious, like, in personality-wise, like the average Lunarian. But I doubt we'll get to see that until, maybe towards the end of the story. Like, when we get the, Void Century flashback. Oh my god, that Void Century flashback is going to be so interesting to, like, talk about. But yeah, this was a cool discussion video to do at the end of the year. Honestly, this was mostly just a theory video of me talking about, like, oh yeah, the Lunarians of the past, how they could have been wiped out and where they would have lived. But yeah, this chapter, this discussion was a good way to end this year off at least my One Piece videos. So, like, comment, subscribe, whatever. Next time I see you is the blazing flame of King. Ooh, actually, that does beg the question. Actually, one thing I'll just say before that, CP0 is here. And if they find out that King's a Lunarian, which I don't know how they wouldn't, but yeah, they might also capture, King, and that might be a big deal. Ooh, yeah, definitely very interesting. But see you next time. Remember, the sky's aflame. a flame of skies. Just like, actually, since I'm out, what's like a Christmas movie you guys like to watch? My hats just fell down from my hat rack. But, yeah, what was I saying? Oh, yeah, like, what's a sky race? Not a sky race, but, like, more... Oh, my God. Okay. Let me just say this. What's a Christmas movie you guys like? I like Nightmare Before Christmas. I don't care if it's a Christmas or Halloween movie. But, yeah. See you guys later. Oh, wait, maybe... I should watch Home Alone again.